A quorum. I would like to open this meeting for the Plainville Board of Health for June 12th, 2024 at 6:09 PM. On today's agenda, we have hearings and meetings, 54 Miramichi Street, a septic repair, setback variances to foundation and impervious barrier, Ava's Market, discussion of tobacco license and new location, municipal refuse collection, discussion regarding a problem stop, and 16 Road Street, well deed and certificate of compliance, letter from lawyer's office. Under general business, we have 41 Hawkins Street, a noise complaint, annual Board of Health notice from DEP regarding information of interest, reminders, and important updates, and any item not anticipated by the chairman at the time of posting. Let's begin with 54 Miramichi Street. Do we have anyone for 54 Miramichi?
Yes.
Sir, could you introduce yourself for the record?
My name is Bob Vay with Norfolk Engineering, representing the Spencers at 54. I always say it wrong. Miramichi?
Yep.
Perfect.
The first time. We have an existing three-bedroom house with a failed septic system. We have a zone A in the backyard, approximately 10 to 15 feet off the rear yard. And it slopes up, and we don't have much of a front area. I have designed a system on the right side, which is for a three-bedroom house, and it consists of a 1,500-gallon, two-compartment tank, distribution box, and 3 flow diffusers. In order to fit it on the side yard, I'm asking for three variances. One is from the town of Plainville, and that's to allow me to put my poly barrier 5 feet from my system as opposed to the 10 required. And then the other two, I want to put my tank 5 feet from the foundation as opposed to the 10 required. And the SAS 8 feet from the foundation as opposed to the 20 required. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a tight fit, but it'll work.
Okay.
So the priorities so Zone A is like right at the back of the house. The Zone A is right at the back of the house. And a Zone A is a tributary to a water supply, which is Lake Miramichi. And the priority is to keep a septic system out of the 200-foot setback, which is the Zone A from the lake, which puts it on the side of the property. The variances are setback variances to their own property with the foundation and the tank. They're proposing an impervious barrier between the soil absorption system and the foundation. And if you want one, he can extend it around to the tank location. It's not shown to the tank location. Pretty common tight when you have a Zone A and you're trying to snuggle a system in.
Yeah, that was my only question about extending the barrier. What kind of a tank is it?
It's a 1,500-gallon two-piece tank, so.
It's a two-piece tank?
I would suggest if it's not a monolithic tank, which is a single piece, if it's a two-piece tank, that you require that barrier.
I can do that. I can do neither.
Do you want to change it to a single tank, or?
Yeah, why don't we change it to a monolithic tank? I think that's probably a better idea.
Okay. Would you still want the barrier if it's a monolithic tank?
I don't think you have to. The tank is probably going to outlast the barrier.
Probably.
Pretty thick tank, isn't it?
Yes. Pretty thick plastic too, though, for the barrier.
I mean, generally, if the tank's going to leak, it's going to leak because the weep hole on the bottom has been removed instead of like out towards the side.
Well, the barrier is 40 mils. I mean, what's the tank? Made out of fiberglass or something?
No, it's concrete.
Oh, it's concrete?
Yes.
Okay.
So Camille's reviewed the plan. You can speak to it, Camille.
Yeah, I've reviewed the plan. I think due to the setbacks on the land and due to the keeping out of the 200 feet zone from the tributary in the Zone A, this is the best possible location for the plan. I think the variances seem like the best possible choice in this scenario. I do think that he could either possibly use a monolithic tank or extend the impervious barrier. But other than that, I think that the variances are well within their means.
Is that either or on the barrier?
I would think you would need to do either or. I don't think there's necessarily a reason to do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further questions for the applicant?
And we can actually, I mean, are you sure you can get a monolithic tank on that side up that hill? Is it easier to put the two, you know what I mean? It might be hard to, you might want to look at it
I
again.
might want to do the poly.
That's a big tank to swing up that
I agree.
corner. All right, so you're gonna do the,
I'll show the poly going
okay.
by the foundation.
Okay, gentlemen, do we have any further questions? Would anyone in the audience care to ask any questions, either the board or the applicant, or our health agent, health director?
No, and proper notification of abutters was confirmed.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we have no further questions. So due to the findings that due to the site constraints and conditions of the existing lot, there is no other place to locate the system unless it is within the Zone 2. Title V and local regulations allow for the reduction in setbacks, and a new system would provide a higher degree of environmental protection. I will entertain a motion to grant the following variances. Town of Plainville Regulation 767-4.H, to allow the impervious barrier to be 5 feet from the soil absorption system instead of the required 10 feet. 310 CMR 15.000 Title V, the State Environmental Code, 15.211 to allow the septic tank to be 5 feet from the foundation instead of the required 10 feet, 15.211 to allow the soil absorption system to be 8 feet from the foundation instead of the required 20 feet.
And I would put a condition that the impervious barrier for the tank.
We're going with the impervious barrier. And under the standard conditions, as well as an impervious barrier to wrap the tank. Do we want to set a dimension on that or anything, or?
No, that's something, I mean, we can do that in the field. It would have to extend
Yep.
the foot below the foundation, so they want the impervious barrier to go, not a foot.
We want the impervious barrier on the house side to go below the footing versus the joint between the footing and the wall. So it's just a few more feet. You're already there. So no objections to that?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
You found it. Okay.
I did. Next on our agenda, we have Ava's Market, discussion of tobacco license and new location. Do we have anyone here from Ava's Market? Sir, would you mind taking a seat and stating your name for the record?
Yeah, my name's Sashi Kishin. I'm from Avis Market. So we're requesting a change of location to 92 Taunton Street. My lease is actually coming to an end in September. Recently, back in February, I did change the corporation. So it's just been 4 months since then, but I know in September it's going to be 7. The only reason I believe last meeting, the board said like it has to be about a year before you could do change of location. The only thing I can come up with here is, the new corporation actually ended up being in the same family. I'm still managing the place and I've had the place for like last 7.5 years. Yes, we did change corporation, but in those times, it's been the same people, same employees. In those years, we never had not even like one violation with town of Plainville. Actually, Camille came yesterday too, so she did another one of those compliance checks yesterday, and I believe it all went well. I wasn't there. But my major concern is my lease is coming to an end in September, so I want to like get out of that place. The rent has really gone high, and recently when we first opened there, it was just us, and now there's like three other liquor stores around there as well, so we have taken a huge hit with those big liquor stores around us. And the rent has gone up really high, so that's why the landlord's pushing to like, she expects more rent as well. And I'm not able to like get to that now, so that's why I'm just requesting that if we are able to move from that spot to 92 Taunton Street, which is already an existing location. It's DJ Liquors, so with my tobacco license, I'll be able to help them, and it will help them as well because they just have liquor, they don't have tobacco license. So that's just I'm here for. So hopefully board understands the situation and like grants me this transfer.
Okay. Cammy, you did an inspection yesterday,
I did.
and how did it go?
Yes, so recently Ava's Market has had to remove their ends due to the state revoking their ends license. So yesterday I did an inspection. They now only have a license to sell both cigars and cigarettes. When I went there, all the ends were removed, no spot of any ends for sale. They had all their signage, all their postings that they needed. So for me, they are in compliance with their current standing.
And ends is vaping products.
Okay. Do we get a chance to look at their historical performance? Do we have any issues with this particular business?
The only issue is that the state revoked their, when he owned it, the state revoked their ends license, their sales tax license, and their license to sell ends for tax issues. I think he's still
Yeah, so
discussing that with the state.
It was a tax issue, which we are still like, it's an ongoing issue with the state, but I believe does not involve like Plainville or me breaking any Plainville laws and regulations in that situation. So that's gonna be for a couple of years, but that business is not there. They're going to resolve that, and it's gonna be a personal resolving on that situation.
So
But it
then,
wasn't anything like we were selling illegally or anything. None of, like, there was no like flavor or anything involved. It's just a tax issue that I still believe that was my distributor's responsibility, but I didn't read the laws carefully on that one, so it has come down to me that I ended up being responsible because it was in my possession. So we're still trying to just like resolve that issue. So I'm not sure how that long is going to be, but that license doesn't even exist anymore. And to my knowledge, like I believe it's a state issue and not a town issue in that situation.
so when did you transfer the business?
February.
So when his ends license was revoked, he sold or transferred his business to a family member, so that, staying in the same location, so that family member, the new owner of the business, is as of February of this year. Even though it's a family member, it's a new business as of February of this year. That new owner was issued an ends permit from the state, and they went and did an investigation, and they have recently rescinded that ends license also. Which, like he says, is a state issue. I don't know why, I didn't get into why they rescinded the new owner's ends license. But the new business and the new owner was of February. And if we go with, you need to have at least a year's worth of a clean record before you would consider transferring to a different location. So even though it's a family member to family member and he's still operating, it is a new property, it is a new business owner. So, I mean, it's kind of a gray area, but I think there was a reason why it went from him to a family member. So that's the question. If you consider the new timeline, February, it's definitely less than a year, which is what my recommendation was when we discussed it. They're basically trying to sell their license to DJs. So when he gets into DJs, he's gonna stay in DJs, and then he's gonna, sell it to DJs. So, our regulation specifically says that the licenses are non-transferable, and it is for sale and location, not just a sale, so that's just the background on the regulation. And town council had actually given an opinion. We discussed a couple meetings back. He had proposed 3 different scenarios on how to get the license to DJs, and town council basically said out of the 3 scenarios, if an existing business were to operate at DJs, take their business and operate there for the time the board determines, like, say, a year, then DJs could apply for that license. It's kind of to prevent selling of the licenses, I guess, and operating a business in a location. But that's the background. So it would be before the board to decide if A, February is the new start time, and B, if you want to maintain a year at a location without any violations. He wants to move in September.
May I speak? I believe when we received the new license in February, there was no such thing as it's going to be a year. It's something the board decided in the last meeting, so it didn't give me the chance that, okay, I'm going to be stuck here for a year. So that part came in recently. I didn't have knowledge of that specific part that, okay, I have to be here for a year. Otherwise, I would have given this a second thought.
No, we discussed it.
But
The board didn't rule on it, but me and you
yeah,
discussed.
I agree with that.
Okay.
In your email, you mentioned it was going to be somewhere from 6 months to a year.
And that it was up to the board to decide.
Yeah. So
And that it was the board to make that decision.
yes.
So you knew that there was a potential.
Okay.
So when you say you would have made a different decision,
Okay, so here's my thing. I can't really explain much, but all I can say is the new corporation that was found in my person's name, that person has been working there for 5 years. Once again, all I can say is except changing the corporation, nothing else has changed. We have followed every regulations. Yesterday she was there. In this during time, we have seized hundreds of IDs, not even a one minor or something that we would have sell it to. We actually did provide her hey, because I believe you saw some IDs there, just fake IDs sitting there. Not sure what else I can do. I understand the whole thing, but 7 years is a lot of time to not even get a warning or anything in that specific part. So that's all I can tell the board. So it's really up to you. My main concern is my lease is ending in September. That's what my concern is. And if I just give back the license, it just retires and it doesn't give me any other opportunity. I'd rather use that opportunity to do something with it than just hand back the license back to the board and it just retires. So that's all I'm requesting.
so there's not an application before us. He hasn't filled out an application for the new location at this point and paid the fee that goes along with that. Just, not that he can't do it right now, but I'm just saying, he actually hasn't filled out the application. And when they do a new location application, we look to make sure that that location meets all of the requirements of our regulation. And the biggest one and DJ's location won't be an issue, is that there aren't any schools within 500 feet of the new tobacco location. DJ's is up by, next to Panera Bread, and there are no schools within 500 feet of that. So I see no reason why that location wouldn't be an acceptable location.
And he said he was gonna continue to operate just the way he is now at the new location, is that
Yeah,
right?
so
For at
the-
least
since-
a year?
since the board recommends a year of, I understand that I'm not fulfilling a year, but I believe if the board gives me this opportunity, I wouldn't change anything till we complete this whole year.
So that's the tricky point. He's basically asking you to waive the year from when the new owner started in February. If you look at the new owner is the new business in February. He's looking to say, I don't want to do that year requirement, but he's going to promise to stay. If he were to ask for less than that, it would be hard to say no after, you already granted him, basically.
I mean, if I
That's-
want to sell my location, I believe I have the right that I can sell it the next day,
Just,
But it's all up to you,
Put
so
in-
whatever you guys decide at this point.
I mean, that's a 7-month.
Right, but I guess my first question would be, if he changes location, wouldn't that be a new location and reset the 1 year?
Correct.
Yeah.
But my only, just pointing it out as fact, that you guys consider as you will, if you don't make this new owner stay there for a year until next February before they request a change in location, so now the new time frame is 7 months, right? So then when he's at DJ's and he decides he wants to leave in 7 months, you've just said okay to, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, I'm just trying to be consistent. It doesn't matter to me how you handle it, just pointing out it's kind of once you do it once, then that's the new norm. Even though this is kind of extenuating circumstances, family member to family member, but
And also requiring a new lease.
Well, we did have 2 violation on the ends, right?
so those are state violations. They aren't Board of Health local violations. So the state rescinded those permits. Our regulation simply says you need to have a license from the state to sell ends. And when they no longer had the license from the state, they no longer sold the ends. So they technically weren't in a local Board of Health violation. They, for whatever, the state took it. But creatively, he sold the business and stayed in the same location, applied and got a new ends license, and then the state researched and revoked that one also, for whatever reason. It's not really our concern on why they revoked it.
Do we have any more questions, gentlemen?
What kind of a precedence is this setting for other?
Well, 7 months is the new norm now.
And it's because, I understand the 7 months, it's because the lease is ending September, that's my concern. Otherwise, I'm getting kicked out, or I practically have to beg her to let me stay another 5 months, which don't want to really beg.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments, concerns from the audience? Okay. What do you think, Bob? We set it at 12 months, so if we bend on the first one, like Deb said, it's going to be 7 months until somebody else has another problem with a different timeline. So,
What's the end result here, though? How does it affect anything?
It doesn't affect anything really, except that he's using a creative way to transfer his license, and our licenses are non-transferable. He's probably doing it, and according to town council, within the law. The only question really is if that 1 year to stay in a location before you would consider a transfer, that's the question. You know what I mean? So, like I say, out of the 3 scenarios he proposed to get over to DJ's, this was the one that town council said, creative, but he can take, business in good standing. If the board decides to give him a permit to transfer to a different location, he can. It just happens to be in a liquor store. So he's doing it correctly to town council.
Did town council have any comment on the duration?
No, that was up to the board.
Back on us again.
So it's back on you. And, I mean, it's splitting hairs, but new business owner in February. Forget that it's the family member and the whatever. I mean, that's how I dumb it down, basically. And maybe that's just...
Also, like you mentioned that the ends license was gone, we took all the precautions, we removed everything, like you didn't have to come to
No,
us.
there's no disagreement. You were very,
Yeah,
very forward.
so if that's something board wants to consider, because this actually happened yesterday when our health, our tobacco inspector stopped by.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you make a decision and then you change it before, so they should make a decision that 6 months is enough time before you transfer a license. You know what I mean?
Also, if I do believe if a change of location happens, we're still moving into Plainville, and you can always punish us for breaking another law or something.
don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to, that's what I'm
It's not
saying.
the go-to.
I've been 7 years, I know I didn't do it, so I don't understand how I do it next, but it's just a thing. We're still in Plainville. She comes and does a compliance check. We fail, fine, warning, and it's on our record. And next time I come in, I'm like, hey, change of location. Say that I have violation on my record. So that can play a part, but we don't have any violation with the town. So please, it's because my lease is ending. I really hope that this goes in my favor.
Bottom line is the license is not transferable, and this is a way around that.
Absolutely.
Right.
And town council, I mean, that was the questions that were asked. Because we've talked extensively, and he gave me well, what if I do it this way, and this way?
I was honest.
No, he was
Yeah.
perfectly honest. We talked about it thoroughly. So when you say you had no idea about the 6 to a year,
6 months. I know there was 6 months
Yeah.
to a year.
so we talked about it thoroughly, and I said, well, okay, I'll ask town council, because it's gonna go to town council anyway. So they shot down his first 2 ideas and said creative, but yeah, that will work. It's up to the board, what time frame before you transfer a license, before you allow a liquor store to move to a new location. And that's where the whole good standing and no bad inspections and, proven to be a good businessman. So, if you take out the the February, that change in ownership, if he hadn't sold to a family member to get a new ends license, he wouldn't have an issue. We wouldn't have this conversation.
Mr. Roberts, what do you have for us?
So, Debbie, you mentioned that when you talked with this gentleman, that it was up to the board to make a decision between 6 months and 12 months. I guess my question is, why was 12 months chosen? What was the difference between 6 months and 12? It sounds like 6 months would fit perfect with this, what's going on, but 12 months doesn't. So why was 12 chosen over 6?
Because generally, we do 2 inspections a year and 2 compliance checks a year, so it was a year, good standing, and at least get two inspections in, 6 months apart, roughly. That was the... I don't have the minutes from that meeting in front of me, but that was the...
I believe from what I heard in the last meeting, it wasn't like, I could be wrong, but it wasn't decided that like it is 12 months. It was
Correct.
up to the board to like say I'm here presenting my case. It depends on you to make a decision on that.
So it was a topic of conversation because there was not an application in front of us. Oh, he left.
It's that guy. Yeah, he's mad.
It's your fan.
You missed, because we had conversations with the gentleman before the meeting started, but anyway.
Oh, you'll have to catch me up to speed.
So we talked about it. You didn't vote on it. You didn't make a decision on it. There wasn't an application in front of us at the time. And there's still not an application in front of us. This is more of a conversation. I mean, he could go down the hall and fill out the paperwork in 5 seconds, so I wouldn't hold that against him that there's not an official application in front of us.
It's a way around the regulation, I think, that bothers me the most. Now, whether it's going to happen anyway, whether it's a year or whether it's 7 months. So the end result is going to be the same.
Correct.
Well, my question is it a regulation? We had a discussion about it, but did we?
No, we did not
We
vote
did
on
not
it.
file, so technically we don't have the regulation.
There, you don't even have a motion for it.
Correct. So I'll fall back to the intent. The intent was to spend a year taking a look at these people and making sure that there were good neighbors and good business practices being held. It seems that we have that here, although I don't want to break the 1 year.
You didn't vote on it yet. That was just
We don't have anything yet. I would be willing to look past the 7 months, given the track record. However, I would probably put in a condition that said, you still need to wait a year before we make any moves. After you move to DJs, if that's the direction that we take, you would have to wait a year because of the location change.
He'd have to renew his lease, though, at the present location?
No, you just.
No, I'm trying to be business friendly here.
All right.
We have a business person in front of us that really hasn't caused any trouble, and that was the whole intent of this, was to hold people accountable and not let them bounce the license around and try to get away with things that we're not in favor of.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think that we have that here with this gentleman.
I agree.
Those are my thoughts. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
And so, when a permit's before you for a new location, you can either approve it or deny it. You know what I mean? It's a permit for location.
But we have no reason to deny it in this case. It's not near a school, it's,
No, the location, I mean, I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at the location, but I know there's no school within 500 feet of DJ's. There's the wetland, there's 495, there's Route 1.
Because Royal Cigars just moved in right in front of the thing.
Yeah, 92
so,
ton.
Yeah.
So you're not giving a waiver or breaking a regulation, because there isn't one on it. It's your decision on, and permits can, you can take it on a case-by-case basis.
So before us tonight, we're just approving the relocation.
He, without paperwork, is asking for, as if he has paperwork in front of us, permission to relocate his current business to, what's the address?
DJ Liquors, I think it's 90 Taunton Street or 92.
We can't guess. If you want them to make a motion, you need to be
Yeah,
accurate.
give me 1 second. Can you search what the J-
And we've done that before. So Royal Cigars went over to where the Dunkin' Donuts used to be, next to the tire place.
It's 93 Taunton Street.
Plainville, Spirits, which was right down the street here, went over to Manmar Drive. But they had their business and they just relocated to a different area. And I do not know if you can make it contingent that he stay in there for 1 year. I would almost say that would be another question for town council. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
that's something I believe, from what I heard, I think we talked about this. If we moved to a spot and if it's already an existing location, the other person can get the tobacco license because it's already the existing location.
But, so the question is, so what would, I don't know the answer to this. I would have to talk to town council yet again. If he moves to the new location and 17 days later DJs wants to buy his business, I mean, that's definitely skirting the non-transferable.
Yeah, so that's what my thing is, that's where the business part comes in, that, hey, I'm at this space, I have an emergency, I'm leaving, or I haven't heard of this because I believe if you have a business at one spot, there shouldn't be a thing that, no, you're going to be here for a year before you sell your business. Because I'm not sure if that's actually a thing.
That's why I don't
Right,
have an
yeah.
answer. I'd have to
Yeah.
ask town council.
Yeah, of course. Right now, the concern is the relocation, so maybe see how the relocation thing comes in.
So not worse, but if DJs was to apply for a license, you can just deny it. I think you would lose in court, but admittedly, it's a creative way to, he has no intention.
Yeah, I'm just following what the council recommended.
Right.
So I'm not here lying or making
No,
stuff up.
no.
I'm being straightforward and just being open about it.
And he went about it the right way. He asked, he was upfront about the 3 ways he was gonna get from point A to point B, which one's gonna fly.
Okay, so it seems to me that we need to take a harder look at this. We need to consult with town council. We need to review our discussion, and talk about exactly what we agreed upon.
He's gonna need to file an application.
We'll need an application to make a motion, correct?
But how am I going to fill in application for the new spot unless I change the things with the state and then I get licensed for that spot? So if I change,
No, so at that point, they would issue you a permit for a new location contingent upon the state licenses are obtained.
so what is this new application that you're talking about putting in front of us? So what are we filling here?
You're putting it, so our permit is for sale and location. Your permit is not only to sell, but where you're going to sell it.
Okay.
So currently, you have a permit to sell at your current location.
Correct.
You're going to need to fill out a permit to sell at a different location.
Okay, but how are you going to give me that? Because how are you going to give me that when I don't give you the state licenses?
So when the board votes
Yes.
to issue that permit, they can make that contingent, this permit is valid, contingent upon receiving the state licenses to sell tobacco products. Because you could bring your business over there, which includes a lot of other things other than, you know, the tobacco license. We just permit the tobacco, the
Okay.
nicotine delivery products and tobacco.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that's good standing, that issue this permit at such and such a location, you know, contingent when they receive their licenses to sell from the state. And they can go through that whole application process and do all of that. How long's that process?
The state process is going to take less than 2 to 3 days, not even.
Yeah, so that's that one.
You just have to change the Secretary of State address change,
Yeah.
and then you just tell the Mass Department of Revenue that there's the new address.
The only clarification that I need, I can't answer and I need from town council is if when he does change his license, and if you do approve the new location, if you can contingent upon him staying there for 1 year. I'm not sure that you can do that.
What
And
we-
I need clarification from town council. I can't answer that question.
Okay. Gentlemen, would you feel comfortable tabling this until the next meeting?
Sure.
That'll give Deb some time to do research.
So unfortunately, since the lease is ending in September, they're trying to put the space in the market. The landlord
So our next
is.
meeting is July 10th.
Yeah, they want to do this like tomorrow. So I mean, the lease is the whole situation. So that's why I'm here in June asking that, hey, September, so it gives me enough time. Because they'll put it in the market tomorrow, somebody rents it, and then I'm definitely getting kicked out for good. Otherwise, my other option was to practically beg, which I'm trying to avoid.
You could stay there for another year.
The rent's too high, I don't want to stay there. Just don't want to.
Well, that's part of the reason, and the other reason is the competition has increased sharply.
Yeah, that's also true, and I believe that she thinks that she can get better rent at this point.
Okay, well, they can't have tomorrow because we don't even have a permit in front of us.
Okay,
So
so,
we're gonna need a little bit of time.
okay, that's fair.
Um, I'm assuming that Brian Noble will give us permission to seek town council.
Well,
Thank you, sir.
they're already 90% through on this question. So it's just kind of like finishing it up.
When do you think we might be able to?
July 10th.
July 10th. Okay, sir. July 10th will be our next meeting. Hopefully we can finalize it.
I mean, it's something that if town council gives me something sooner, I can give you a hint on the direction, and then the board would just have to officially vote on it. I wouldn't be
Okay,
breaking any huge rules.
okay, so what exactly are we asking town council here?
If they can put a condition on your permit at the new location, and if a year is a reasonable time or not. If,
Okay,
you know, if they can put that year, if they can put, I mean, it's up to the board's discretion, so.
okay, so if they are putting a year and you know clearly what my plans are, does that, for example, will that still give me the opportunity, if they sign on the year thing, then I believe it makes more sense for me in that situation to tell my landlord that I need to stay here another 5 months and then my year would be complete.
They haven't even decided on the year. The board hasn't made a decision or a motion on the year.
Right?
Could. Hardship, by definition, that, we would certainly entertain it.
That's what I saw right from the beginning, was the hardship.
So, you want my input?
Would you introduce yourself for the record, sir?
Brian Noble, Town Administrator. Okay, so just to basically sum it up, it's the goal of the board, if I may, is to eventually phase out tobacco. This is a license in existence, so you're not going to add or subtract if he gets his permission. You'll stay exactly where you are. He transfers his license to a different address to another family member, which eventually, I'm assuming, cards on the table, they will acquire. So one of the things you need to look at coming forward, to your point, Bob, is the competition. We know that DJ will be facing more competition from Market Basket or MB Liquors. So they're probably looking at every possibility they can to have a competitive edge. One of the permits that would not be available for MB Liquors would be the tobacco license. So this is a family taking care of family.
So he's not transferring to a location where a family member is.
Oh.
He's just trying to give DJs their license. They're not related, it's not a family member, he's not helping out another family member.
It hurts my case a little bit. But the fact of the matter is,
Because of the move that we just did with the permit to Royal Cigars, then you would have the same influence where we're bringing more competition. Now they can buy, Royal Cigars doesn't have a liquor license. Now we're giving someone with a liquor license the cigars. Now are we phasing out their business and we just let them?
well, there's still beer and wine licenses available. Nothing stops another store from applying.
No, Royal Cigars can't sell beer and wine because they are a 21-plus establishment, and they can't sell liquor out of a 21-plus establishment.
So the Royal Cigars, the stuff they are selling, DJ Liquors aren't going to be selling that in the first place, because technically Royal Cigars is considered a marijuana accessory store, and they're allowed to sell 5% nicotine and stuff. So the convenience store, DJ Liquors, they wouldn't be able to sell 5% nicotine or any of the marijuana accessory stuff to begin with. So I believe it's two very different licenses at that spot.
Yeah, Royal Cigars' primary focus is not cigarettes. It's cigars. Their primary focus is cigarettes and vape products. And cigars is just a handful of them, right?
Yeah. But the only thing is if I do move to DJ, I don't want I have to be there for a year to get out. That's called, I'll be suffocating then in that situation, because obviously the plan is to give it to them. So I want to sell my business tomorrow if I want to sell my business tomorrow. So tying me up for a year is just, I'm not sure if that's logical.
Or legal.
Yeah, or legal.
But that's the question. How do your regulation says non-transferable.
We're not transferring anything. I'm moving my location to that spot. They are going to apply for their own license, and then they can come in front of the board, and then if you have a valid reason to deny them, then I'm not transferring anything here. I'm deciding to change my location from one spot to the other. Now, it's not that I took the license and here you go. They still have to apply to their own state license to get their own stuff. And then since I already have that existing location with my license, I will be okay, I'm moving, but since I'm out, but I have that license here, so they should be able to get it. But it's not called transfer. It's that they have to obtain their own licenses from the state and then from the town.
So in effect, there'll be two businesses operating out of that address.
Correct.
Exactly.
Which we
For
actually.
a month.
So. I'm being honest. I don't want to I'm not lying here. You haven't. I don't want to come and then I should have never. Maybe I didn't want to be here and not tell you all this in the first place, and then lie about it and then try to come up with this stuff. I need to tell the board where we are at.
So I need to go back and review, because again, out of his 3 proposals, I don't have it in front of me and I don't remember it off the top of my head, if there was one that sounds exactly like what he's trying to do. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to sell in 5 days. That may have been one of the proposals that was rejected. And I'm not sure. I can't answer that question. So I don't have an answer for you on how to proceed. I would need to speak with town council. Sorry, wish I was clear on everything, but.
I believe the first step is, do I get that change of location or not? That's obviously the first step, I'm assuming, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, change of location, right? So that's the first step, and now that's what it depends on you board members, because there's no town council said that it has, it's with the board members for it to decide like how long it's going to be or what you feel comfortable with. And so I'm not sure why we are actually like really holding on to that year just because we said that we should see a year. Obviously we will be moving in Plainville, and like I said, if any problem happens at that other location, punishment's right on the table. So I think that's what, I believe that's what you need to make decision on.
Is
Hopefully-
having an answer by July 10th too long of a time?
Yes, it is, because I promise you, like, I'm not making stuff up. I haven't been, she's gonna put this space in the market, and then I'm really getting kicked out, and then I'll be like, I'm in a situation where, like, I lose everything. So, that's why, I'm here to decide September.
But your lease isn't up until September, right?
Correct. So we also have beer and wine at that store, and the lottery and stuff. The lottery will be taken care of, but I need these 3 months to sell my beer and wine inventory. I have to clear that space out. I'll be handing back the beer and wine license back to the town. So obviously all the inventory that I have, I need that time, next 3 months in September, to like sell and like try to empty the store out by September. I mean, I have to empty it out in September.
You don't have that much beer and wine in there.
Trust me, we have a lot of wine, and I'm really genuinely concerned about wine. Beer, I'm not concerned about. Wine is definitely a concern because we have a lot of inventory, and now we don't have wine sales because we're dealing with 3 liquor stores around us now. So there's that. But she's gonna put this space in the market in like next couple of days. Because I'll tell you why. Because another spot in that plaza, there was a countertop right next to Ava's Market, and now that spot's empty as well because the rent's too high. So they ended up leaving. So the landlord's already in this crazy mode because she's already losing one space, and now there's gonna be a second space. So that's why she's in a hurry, and if you go online, you can see the other spots actually already on the market. So she has been on my case every single day, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to the board, like, just give me some time, I'm going to the board. She's like, okay, let me know by Thursday, because they should decide Wednesday.
So if you cut it down, right, pretend he didn't sell the business in February. If he hadn't sold the business in February, and if he were coming in here asking to transfer over to DJ's, that's the end of it, right? You would really have no reason to deny his request. And again, I don't think you can contingent that he has to stay someplace for a year. I don't think that's,
I don't either.
yeah.
And
But I don't have the answer.
I'm trying to understand what risk there is to the town.
There is no risk.
There's no risk to the town. It's just, your regulation says non-transferable, and it's a
Right.
creative way. That's all
It's a
it is.
technicality.
You can consider it a technicality.
And I believe since it didn't go in the regulation in the last meeting, I believe you have the authority to make that decision today.
They didn't vote on anything.
Yeah, exactly. I would say I understand the whole thing, but just, if you give this one thought, I understand the whole corporation thing, that's what we're dealing with. But like I said, me, my mother, and one more person has been there for the last 7 years.
I didn't know that was your mother.
Yeah, she's my mom. So yeah, so 7 years, and I don't know what else we could do. Like, obviously didn't make a single mistake. Like a lot of stores around have made, like I have locations in North Attleboro. I'm always at the town meetings there with somebody violating a state tobacco law selling to a minor. Happens very frequently, apparently in North Attleboro. So us seizing the IDs every time, following like remove the vapes when Camille came yesterday, everything was already taken care of. We have been good with like everything at this point, So I believe I do deserve being in this town for this long, following the regulations, that I deserve that this transfer happened.
if I broke any laws, I'll be like, gladly I understand that, like, okay, you guys have a reason to, but didn't really do any of that.
That was the whole intent of the 1-year waiting period, was to
Right.
see how they operate.
So what the regulation says is, a permit for location and sales is non-transferable, except a new permit will be issued to a tobacco retailer who changes locations and has shown compliance pertaining to the provisions of this regulation. So, shown compliance for, that's the question, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year? Shown compliance is, you did good for a month and you can go. So that's where that whole question on how long is a reasonable amount of time came up.
May I ask another question? I believe Plainville town has 13 tobacco licenses currently. We are capped at 10. I believe every other license, no one has changed anything. No one has change of location anytime soon. It was just me recently. Otherwise, everyone has had the license for over years. I believe no one has gotten any new tobacco licenses.
No. So Royal Cigars
Did a change of
did a
location.
location.
Yes.
And Plainville Wine and Spirits, I think they called themselves.
Yeah, they-
Changed location over to Myanmar Drive.
They've been there for over easily over a year now.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I believe from my understanding, there's not really any other situation like this coming in front of the board for change of, even if it is situation comes in for change of location, I believe everyone's gonna be well above a year, except obviously the Royal Cigars. But I'm sure that rent over there is really high, so I'm sure they signed a good lease to stay there for a while.
So back to the application, we don't have anything to vote on, do we?
He's asking for a change of location. I mean, I can go run and get him an application and
I just didn't know I had to fill in an
let him fill it out
Right,
real
we just want to
quick.
make sure we do things officially, so do you think we should do that or not? I mean,
I don't know, what do you think, Brian?
I mean, I hear the desperation, and you're gonna end up with the same number of licenses no matter which way you go.
Correct,
So my feeling is there's no harm, no foul.
correct.
Appreciate it.
He hasn't filled out an application. A verbal request would be sufficient?
Yes.
Okay, that's the question.
We're being recorded, so it's right. The proof's right here.
okay.
And it doesn't mean that the next time we have to grant this at 7 months either. Every case will be different.
Correct. You have discretion, particularly on tobacco licenses.
I'm sorry?
You have tremendous discretion.
Oh, we,
I'm sure somebody comes in next 4 months, they have a violation, then obviously they're not. I believe you guys are really,
Right.
okay, you have a violation, no.
Right.
What is the current address of Avis Market?
80 Taunton Street.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to allow Ava's Market to move from 80 Taunton Street to 93 Taunton Street. Do we need to add anything to that?
contingent that an application and fee is completed and received.
Would anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, board members. I really do appreciate it. And thank you. We have had a good relationship, you know. All right. Am I done
I
here?
look forward to it for the next.
You are done here, yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is municipal refuse collection. Has that already been discussed?
No.
Okay. What do you have for us, Deb?
So on June 5th, the E.L. Harvey and Sons trash driver, Pete Lukey, called my office and informed me that he had a confrontation with a resident at 58 Taunton Street,
A verbal confrontation.
a verbal confrontation. So I reviewed, and Camille reviewed the video and audio that's on the truck to hear what this confrontation was. I think you guys should see it to understand it. But there was a lot of language used, which is not against the law, and a lot of tone and voice, which is not against the law. But the female occupant did say, if my husband was home, he would put you on the ground. Which Pete,
Correction.
I'm sorry?
Into the ground.
into the ground. Yeah, not on the ground, into the ground. Which Mr. Lukey took as a threat.
So would I.
And then later on, I'm assuming it's the male owner of the property, called E.L. Harvey and Sons twice, and again used language which is not against the law. But he did say, this guy is not allowed back on my property, and if he is, he'll have to face consequences. And Mr. Lukey again took that as a threat. This address we sent at least two notices to them. So what started the issue was Pete had gotten out of his truck. He has a history with contamination in the recycling bin. He opened the lid to see if it was a clean load before he dumps it into the other clean recycling. He took out what appeared to be rugs. I mean, big, like car mat rugs or bath mats or something. Looks like a shirt and a sock out of the recycling
Stuff
container.
that's not supposed to be.
Well, blatantly not, right. And he put it on the ground and then emptied the rest of the clean recycling. He was actually doing them a favor because what
He emptied it into his truck.
Yes. So he put the contamination on the ground, emptied the good recycling,
I would call that a good Samaritan.
and was in the process of writing up a slip saying, contaminated recyclables. What he should have done is flipped open the lid, seen that there was contamination, closed it, drove away, and left the entire car. That's what he should have done, but,
He's nice.
so, he's said that they've had contamination in their recycling on numerous issues. I sent him a letter back in December. At that time, they had dirty diapers, pie crust, pie and pie shells, napkins, contaminated food items. So we sent him a letter and said, this is not acceptable. And they, according to Pete, have consistently had unacceptable recyclables in the container. So when he was in the process of writing up the slip with his back turned, the woman came out of the house screaming. He barked back and said, I'm just doing my job. It was a little loud. And then she proceeded to yell and scream and use language and then threatened that her husband would put him into the ground. And then again, the I'm assuming, husband called E.L. Harvey, left 2 voicemails, and so obviously our trash program isn't probably the best fit for them.
I think it's pretty straightforward, that trash is trash and recycle is recycling.
It is pretty
You've
straightforward.
defined it in pamphlets and everyone that's a member has that pamphlet.
Right. So again, the issue, it's not the foul language, it's not the contamination, it's the threats by both the female and the male, the husband and the wife, I'm assuming that's who they are.
Possibly be a police action.
I believe that the chief of police did call the property owner. I do not know what that conversation was. I reported to him that they had made those two comments about putting them into the ground and consequences if he came back onto the property. And the police chief decided to give the gentleman a call. I have no idea what transpired in that.
Best thing about our trash program is you don't have to use it if you don't want to.
This is an opt-in trash program. I would suggest, if you had seen the video, I don't think you would ask any questions, that they be terminated from the trash program because they have other options.
I watched the video. Bye. You know, I guess I could phrase it this way. We can get more customers, I can't get more trash men.
Well, we can't put peat in the ground, that's not acceptable.
I don't think that, it's unfortunate that people who pick up trash like Pete, as good as he is and as kind as he was, is not necessarily de-escalating the situation in the video. However, the language, the threats rise to a level where it's just probably better if we separate company. So,
I almost agree with you 100%, sir. I would like to watch the video just because I like to give everybody, let them present their side.
would you like to broadcast it?
I don't think it's appropriate to be broadcasted, so I will watch it
So, I spoke with
apparently right now.
North TV, and they said when I start this, that
So block it.
they'll mute it.
Now I connected his comments earlier.
Right?
Was it the same guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we
He is-
didn't need that.
Yeah.
So I agree with two things from that conversation. One, Pete is a trash guy. That's confirmed. Two, he will not be going back to their address. I think, gentlemen, I don't know what you're thinking. Are you in agreement?
No question.
Okay.
So the
we'll
only,
arrange that.
the only question,
I don't need a vote on that.
I think it's a votable thing, Brian, is if it's immediately, because there's 2 more stops there, and I'll go out and refund his $12, or July 1st is when the new program starts.
Oh, I don't think he'll mind forfeiting his money to protect his pregnant wife. I think that's a bargain for $12. Keep this scourge off his property.
I would suggest you make a motion to terminate service to that address, effective immediately.
What is the address?
I'd rather not say it we're on camera now.
Okay.
Can
fair
we
enough.
just kind of keep it vague?
At this time, I will entertain a motion to discontinue service to the address of the incident that we just viewed on video,
Effective immediately.
effective immediately. Would anyone care to make that motion?
Go ahead, Dick,
I'll make that motion.
and I'll
What?
second it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, so sorry.
Next, we have 16 Road Street, well deed certificate and certificate of compliance, letter from lawyer's office. We received a letter.
Yes, we received the letter. I forwarded it to town council immediately. I briefly spoke with town council at 4:30 this afternoon. He asked me a bunch of questions, asked for clarification, gave a lot of different, back and forth, well, this or that. He wasn't able because of a prior commitment to attend tonight's meeting. And he didn't come up with a definitive answer. I really can't speak on his lawyerese back and forth on what his thoughts are. I wouldn't be able to accurately portray that. So I would suggest, that you recognize the letter was received. It's been forwarded to town council. They're currently reviewing it. He may need more, have more questions or whatnot, but he is available for our next Board of Health meeting on July 10th to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any, being that it's in front of town council, if you should discuss it without town council present.
No, I think that's why we paused the discussion, was to hear from town council and get a definitive ruling, which we did not receive yet.
Right.
So this is really more of an update, and could we arrange town council for the July 10th meeting?
Yes, so unfortunately, so that is our next meeting, and he also is not available prior to that. He won't be available before then, for reasons that,
For health reasons.
thank you, I didn't want to divulge.
Fair enough. Well, that's the update, unless anyone has anything else they would like to contribute. Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, so a tangential question around this. I didn't realize that some of the meetings I had been to over the last 6 months were recorded. I watched, I think, 2 of them that we're in. And one of the discussions was about a filtration system being used. Does a filtration system negate the need for a deed restriction?
That's a question I have as well. Is this something,
So I can provide some general information on that if you'd like to hear.
sure.
When we generally ask for a water draw, it's prior to a filtration system so that you get a true reading of the well coming out of the water coming out of the ground. In our regulation that's been in effect since, I don't know, the 90s, whenever they were adopted, the well regulations were adopted, there's a section that says, for volatile organic compounds, if there's a volatile VOC that exceeds the threshold, you can put in a filtration system, and that there needs to be in the deed saying that that filtration system will be properly maintained. And that sampling needs to be done and sent to the Board of Health to assure that that filtration system is working properly. So the filtration system is great, however, they come and go. They need to be maintained, they need filters changed, some of them need chemicals added. So unless that filtration system is properly maintained, you don't know if it's working or not, or if they've ripped them out. I mean, so we've never, to my knowledge, required a filtration system because of a VOC. I don't think it was even prior to me that they ever had a VOC that needed a whole house treatment system.
But we do allow it.
No, so we take the raw water, since
Right.
2005, we take the raw water from the wellhead, and if it exceeds, that's the deed certificate that you record. If they put filtration systems in generally, and they do put filtration systems in, but it's basically for their own, to get rid of the iron that stains and the manganese that stains. It's usually for their own personal reasons that they want to get rid of that iron and manganese. You know what I mean? They need to.
So I went back and I looked at the videos and I took some comments. One of the comments, when you guys were discussing, this was back in the October meeting. It was discussed, I think, between Bob, Lou, and Deb. It says there's an option to install corrective equipment to clean the water. The board can connect what they feel is necessary, which can include the water treatment system. So it sounds like this is what you talked about the VOC. But the conversation went to say that the belief that the deed restriction is a halfway point to, instead of rejecting a well and requiring high-cost treatment, we put a deed restriction instead. Belief that the deed restriction is the least onerous of all choices. The alternative would be an expensive treatment system. And then Deb, I think you stated you reject the well and then you put a treatment system in. So from those comments, it was like, do we require someone to put a $70 deed restriction on or a $7,000 water treatment system? It sounds like the board is saying, hey, let's be nice and help the well owners and only require the $70 deed restriction. But it sounds like the option to put a $7,000 treatment system in was, and it was discussed, like I said, I didn't know we had that video recorded. It was also discussed, this is the low-cost option. So it sounded like the board has the ability to use that as an option if the homeowner does want to spend the $7,000 versus the $70 to not put a deed restriction on.
And I think that's a question for town council, because keep in mind, for the VOCs anyway, it says something needs to be filed, that there's a filtration system, it needs to be maintained, and then you'd have to do sampling to submit to the Board of Health.
Sure, that's for primary, of course. And I think that's a state thing as well.
So, but again, I think these are lawyer questions, I don't want to get into a...
Yep.
Okay. Just asking, because the discussion was, we'd rather have the least onerous option.
I think that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on your viewpoint.
Yeah, so I...
Me having trouble selling my property in the future is a lot more onerous than putting a $7,000 system in.
So I mean, I can't answer if that's again, town council would have to determine if that's an acceptable, approval. I'm not, I don't really have anything to add.
Very good.
I think he raises a good point, and if that's something he's allowed to do, then certainly,
Yeah.
and you're willing to do it.
It's already been done. Have you read the letter?
I did see that.
Stop. That's already gone to council. Stop right there.
I'm advised to stop. My only comment would be, traditionally, we would find that people would find the deed restriction more palatable than the $7,000 system, but clearly you
All right, next item?
opted for the latter. Any further on 16 roads? Okay. Moving on, we have 41 Hawkins Street, noise complaint?
So I received a noise complaint for 41 Hawkins Street. Forgive me, I don't,
That's right here.
oh. And then I also today received, if you'll pass these down, a letter from the same gentleman I received a noise complaint on. So, long and short of the story is apparently they, and I don't disagree on this, have been running heavy equipment for months and months, and they're clearing the site, and they're making berms and moving earth and doing all kinds of stuff and running heavy equipment on weekends and late into the evening, blah, blah, blah. So I called the owner of 41 Hawkins Street and said, hey, I've received a noise complaint. What are you doing over there? I'm going to need to act on it. And he said he was cleaning up the site or whatnot. And I said, is there any possibility? And it's only going to be another week or two. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, if it's only going to be another week or two, in the meantime, can you not run on weekends and can you run, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday? And he said, sure, not a problem. Well, apparently he's already broken that and he's gone until 5 o'clock and not 4 o'clock like he had agreed. So at that time, I said, well, I need a site visit, because when we were you were with us at the site, right? When we were last at the site, this was in response because they had filed an application with the selectman's office for an auto salvage yard permit. And they asked if the Board of Health had any issues, and at that time, we did a site walk and said, yes, these are things we're concerned on. If you're going to issue a permit to them, they should have to do X, Y, and Z. And they never went forward with the permit, so they didn't have to do X, Y, and Z, which were just, you need to apply for an NPDES permit. You need to give us a contingency plan for site cleanup, how you're going to handle, what are the emergency numbers, stuff like that. Just stuff that should have been a condition of their permit. But one of the things when we were out there immediately was a huge stockpile of tires. And right off the get-go on day one, that's a violation. They can't stockpile tires. It's a DEP solid waste violation. But anyway, we didn't issue them an order letter. We told them, you need to get rid of them. And they immediately almost started taking the tires out. And I asked them for the receipts of all the loads that they took out, just to show that they were loading them up and taking them out. And then because they didn't have a permit and they weren't operating, there was some waste oil or hazardous waste there, and it's like, you need to do something with that. So the only thing that I asked them to clean up was the tires immediately, and if there was hazardous waste that's been hanging around. And tomorrow I have an appointment at 10 to just make sure that those two issues had been addressed. It's my understanding at the conservation meeting last night, everyone seemed to think that the site cleanup was under the order of the board, this moving operation. They apparently are just moving a lot of earth around and taking out hills and building huge berms and doing all kinds of stuff. Nothing we asked them to do. So I'm gonna go there tomorrow at 10 for two reasons: to make sure at least the tires are gone and the oil is gone, and to get a feel for how much longer are you gonna be operating. Because I really don't wanna waste time to go out there with a noise meter for 8 hours if they've only got another 2 days of running heavy equipment. So that's where we're at with Hawkins Street. I believe that gentleman might.
Yeah,
Hang on a sec, Tom. So we will get to you, sir. Just 1 minute. We do not have. Do we have anything governing construction activities as far as hours of operation?
No.
Okay.
You'd go to the state to follow.
Well, we can go with nuisance in a residential area. I'm just wondering exactly.
The debate, first of all, this has been a raging debate in town hall among the various departments. The work is being done allegedly in compliance with cleanup order. That seems to be also a question. But they can't operate, 7 o'clock in the morning until, I had the number 5.
I can't remember off the top of my
But
head.
the letter I sent to Mr. Benson had the state rules on it, so they can go actually quite late.
I think.
Sorry?
So I have a copy of that letter. He forwarded that to me this
Good
afternoon.
for me. Thank you.
Well, evidently the state regulation is like
The state regulation.
7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
What days?
Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. They can do Saturday, but it's shorter hours than Sundays, no hours. So the real key is, we have several complaints that have been alleged, including, violations of the wetlands and things of that nature. Conservation, I asked Conservation to investigate that. I haven't heard back from Kevin yet on what they found.
I believe they're going there tomorrow evening.
Okay, they buried the stone wall, which is on the deed, which shows the delineation between the town-owned property and their property, but we still have pins. And that's number one. Number two, you can't acquire town property through adverse possession, so I'm not too concerned about that. I'm assuming that they'll move the dirt back when they need to level, and they'll unbury the stone wall, and, I don't know, but it seems a little logical. And the conversation that Deb's had with him says he's almost done. So, and that, he had said then a week, and then we said, okay, well, definitely within 2 weeks. He agreed within 2 weeks, so we're almost to the end of the second week.
And that's what I'll find out more tomorrow is, what, just to get eyes on the ground and see if he's done. So then, is the noise a public health nuisance or a private nuisance?
I can hear it at my house more than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, it's public if it's more than one residence.
I've only had one noise complaint.
Honestly, Brian, I think we need to address till 11 o'clock at night. I think that's unreasonable.
Well, he hasn't been working till 11.
He hasn't, no, but if it's allowed, I think that's something that we need
We
to.
would have to then create a noise ordinance, which would go to town bylaw, so town meeting. So, and I think we should have a noise bylaw anyway, because this isn't the first time that, when they were constructing the cubes, it's right up against a residential neighborhood, much closer than the nearest neighbor on the junkyard. So literally right across the street. So we had no tools for shutting that down. So when the planning board made the order of conditions, they told them they could start as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, and so they pushed the limit to, started the engines at 6:30, so the machines would be ready by 7 o'clock. So we had to enforce against that, and it was always a constant war during the construction. So I would really appreciate a real noise bylaw in the town. So that's something that I've talked to the board, my board about, so we'll see if we can't do something a little proactive. And there's no such thing as, you know, a legacy right to create noise when there then is a noise bylaw. So we would solve an awful lot of problems by doing that. The long and the short of it, which affects the neighbors that hear the junkyard and are concerned about the junkyard environmentally, as well as traffic and, you know, what are they doing, when are they doing it? They still has to determine whether they have legacy rights to operate as a junkyard, and whether when they submit their Class 3 license, they have reached the line of abandonment or not. And there's quite an argument to be had in both directions. And if we make the wrong decision, well, excuse me, if we make a decision that's adverse to the business, we will be in court. If we make a decision that's adverse to the neighbors, we will be in court. So I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. My personal feeling, and I'm not a lawyer, is they probably do have a right, pre-existing non-conforming legacy right. But the permit on Class 3 allows the select board to determine how many cars and hours of operation. So that's the fallback.
Well, in my opinion, it's in the wrong place and it's far too close to the water.
I'm not disagreeing with you, except that it's been there long before zoning came in.
Yeah, no,
And so that's the pre-existing non-conforming portion of it. And, you know, I think it's going to be an issue, whichever way we come down.
you know, the hard part with the noise ordinance is this. When you restrict the hours of operation, you elongate the project. So it's sort of a pick your poison thing. Do you want it miserable for a little while and get it over with? Or do you want to stretch it out and have it a little more palatable? You know, that's a judgment call or preference, personal preference.
So I'm curious, you'd mentioned that, if they've been working there, they haven't abandoned for the last 8 months.
That would, if I were their lawyer, that would be my argument.
So that's why they've taken,
They've been operating without a license.
no, that means they've taken 8 months to push dirt around that really should have only taken 6 weeks. Because I don't know, I can't possibly imagine, I haven't seen it, what they're doing for 8 months to push dirt around.
I mean, the place was a hell of a mess. But
True. Lots of stuff got hauled out.
Yeah, I mean, there's been all sorts of, so I'm Tom Harrop, I live at 74 Hawkins Street, which is across the street from Mr. Benson. So he's the abutter.
Right.
of that property. I'm directly across the street from him. And I really can't see down into the junkyard, even though we're at a higher grade than he is. And
So you're on this side of Mr. LeBlanc's
No,
house?
the other
No,
side.
on the opposite side. So
Oh.
if you're driving down there, I'm on the right, you know, if you came off High Street, I'm on the right.
Towards Burnt Swamp Road.
Yeah, if you're
So
driving.
you go
towards
past the
Burnt Swamp-
junkyard and then you're,
No, before the junkyard.
oh, okay, that's my question.
On Hawkins.
Yeah, so there's the red house with the well across the street.
Yeah.
He's the one before that on your
Okay.
right, coming towards the
Yeah, so
junkyard.
I'm on the right side. Benson is on the left side.
Okay.
Abutting, you know,
Right, okay, I got it.
and, yeah, so he was talking about his complaint was around, from incidental conversation I had with him about they had disturbed a stone wall and they buried part of it or something, and evidently it's on the deed as like, that's the property line. So they were either right on it or had already crossed over in effect onto his property with some of the excavation work that they were doing. But yeah, they pulled out all kinds of trees, they pulled out stumps. They're still working, they were working until 5 o'clock tonight. And they have a big grate all out there, and what they're doing is they're gonna
Wonder if they're,
pile of boulders there, all the way in the back right corner, which I suspect may have been where the tires were originally, I don't know.
yeah, it was in the very back. There were 2 tire
You know,
barns.
so they were still, you know, like, if it's a 4 o'clock, you know, he's not paying attention to that. He hasn't done so.
Is he going past,
I don't know where.
Well, is he going until 9 o'clock at night, or is he?
No, he was going until dusk, though.
So 8:30.
I couldn't.
Roughly.
say that yeah, I couldn't say that he's actually worked until 8:30, but yeah, well after the dinner hour, I could put it that way. And so my question is from a neighbor's point of view is, well, what sort of permits is this guy pulled and under what kind of constraints is he operating?
Wrong board.
It sounds like none. It sounds like, boards doing like, oh, that guy said we could clean up the site. Well, do you have a permit to clean up the site? No, he told me I could clean up the site. So he's cleaning up the site. I guess that came through the building inspector or something. So, and what constitutes clean? There's no
Tires, drum.
Right, that's the first time, so yeah, okay. So that would say he didn't have permission to do anything else there. And it's basically a level lot now.
Well, it's not so much if he had permission, he wasn't ordered by our department.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, from a Board of Health perspective, yeah, I understand that.
If he's moving the junk vehicles out of there, and if he's cutting down trees, I mean,
Right.
he's doing whatever he's doing on his property, but we didn't tell him to scrape down hills and piles and
Oh, no,
tires.
I get what you're saying, I wouldn't see that he
Oil.
would have.
Yeah, so,
I mean, like you said, if you said clean up the oil and
I mean, they were nicely contained and everything, but they weren't running a business. What are you doing with that? Make sure they're secured, or get them off-site, or,
well, they are still running some sort of an auto business because there are Priuses that come in and out of there all the time. They're parked in the front, closest to Hawkins Street where the gate is. So,
again, wrong department.
well, there again, but like I say, as a neighbor, it's like, okay, so everybody's got you're saying it's a hot topic within these four walls of all these departments, but none of the word leaks out of this building to know what's actually happening over there and who's sort of monitoring and or permitting them to do whatever it is that they're doing. I mean, at this point, most of that work is done, but it's not all done. You can say, yeah, I'll be done in a week until he's not.
Well,
He's just going to continue to work for as long as he feels like working
Right.
over there because nothing else has changed. There are still no constraints on what he can, when he can do what he's doing, other than a verbal agreement with you, which he doesn't pay attention to.
Right.
So,
I really thought problem solved when he said, oh, sure, Deb, no problem, 9 to 4.
yeah, well, guess what?
And I get that. I mean,
It's blowing smoke, so.
no, I mean, I think getting on the property with him is, a good time to look around and say, even though I don't have jurisdiction over it, but at least I can make sure the tires are at least gone and get a feel for, I don't know what he's doing over there.
So we don't know what the end, as a neighbor, I don't know what the end game is.
I don't either. I might know tomorrow after 10.
And so I was at the conservation meeting last night, just, not coincidentally, incidental to this conversation. I mean, basically, they said, well, they agreed, well, we should go take a look, because we haven't actually done a site walk over there. But then they said, well, we can't actually go onto the property, so they're gonna come at it from the town owns a budding.
I just called him. Can I come look? Sure, Deb.
Well, they didn't, I'm just saying, the conservation division, so we can't go onto the property, so we'll view it from the town property through the swamp, basically, from the Fales Road side. So they'll come at it from the corner, so they're gonna meet at 5 o'clock, I think, tomorrow afternoon, at the corner of Hawkins Street and Fales Road, Burnt Swamp Road, that four-way intersection. And they're gonna walk through the town property, which is that.
Through the swamp?
Well,
We,
I don't know.
we also have permission to view it from the Butters property too.
Yes, and you have permission to view it from Mr. Benson's property at, 89 Hawkins, whatever the name of it, whatever that street is.
Which is-
And obviously you can view it from Hawkins Street itself, where the gate is. You can look in through the gate. But no, that's what they were talking about.
I think it's easier.
Because I guess the wetland had been flagged at some point,
Yes.
And Mr. Benson's point was, well, they've done a bunch of heavy equipment, they've done a bunch of excavation work within the 100-foot buffer. So, but he's saying like, well, I didn't measure it. I mean, I can't go there, it's not my property either. So everybody's sort of, like, nobody wants to, I'm just, for me, it just seems like somebody's done a ton of work there, unpermitted, and not even to say necessarily that it needed to be permitted.
I was just gonna say, do you even need a permit to do
Right,
it?
I don't know. And I don't, as a neighbor, I just, I mean, yeah, the noise has been a tremendous annoyance. My wife the other day was spitting nails because all day long, all she heard was
It's irritating.
that stupid backup thing. And they were running like 3 pieces of equipment at the same time. And that's all she heard all day long was backup, beeping, and, big banging and stuff like that. Because they're moving good-sized boulders around is what they're doing at this stage.
They're moving a lot of earth too, and an earth removal permit may be necessary.
That's also part of the debate, whether that's a compliance with an order from one of our boards, then you don't need a permit. If it is construction, pre-construction, you do need a permit.
So Brian, I'm kind of shocked. If it's questionable whether they're entering that 100-foot no-touch zone, why isn't conservation allowed to go in there and take a look right on his property?
They can with permission, or they can with a search warrant.
He's never denied us permission.
I mean, to be honest with you, I found him affable, if not accurate, or inaccurate. So if they called up and said, you would like to enter the property at such and such a time, he'll probably say yes.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
trying to, he obviously, his end goal is, he wants to operate the junkyard there. That's the first thing to understand, and he may have a right to operate the
Yes,
junkyard.
maybe, yep.
Which is a question. So he's not trying to aggravate the neighbors, but he is. So I think we need actually, he seems to have a very good relationship with Deb, and even Mark. So,
Well, I'm not saying he would deny conservation. I'm just speaking sort of in general. We can't send the conservation agent out there to take a look. I thought we
Across
had,
the street from the town's property?
he doesn't have standing just to walk on their property and look?
Nope, have to have permission.
I would never do that, even if I did have standing.
I'm just trying to clarify what we can and cannot do.
Yeah, I don't know like I said, whether somebody from conservation just
Yeah,
phone call to the guy and say, hey, we'd like to come and look.
I'm not
at it.
alleging-
Evidently not, because the conversation was, well, we don't have a right to walk on the property without permission. So
You
we're
don't have
gonna
to
look
write
at
it,
it
but you
from,
can ask permission.
yeah, so we're gonna look at it from,
Well, I'll talk to Kevin about,
it sounds like they weren't gonna try to get permission. I mean, probably they,
Actually, if it's not posted, no trespassing, and
Well, that's a whole nother
you'll walk in
thing.
the front door.
So, as a neighbor that lives there, I was at that select board meeting, however many months ago that was, where the select board said, well, we can't issue a license. The license that was there ceased with the sale of the property. You, as the new owner, would have to apply for the license, and then that's where it runs into this whole, now it's a non-conforming lot in a residential zone, and we don't actually allow salvage operations in the town of Plainville any longer, so it's going to sound like they're going to be out of luck. From my perspective of just being outside of the loop altogether, okay, so out of luck for that, except for all these cars that keep coming and going, so it looks like they're doing something.
We have actually interdicted, they're not allowed to be transporting property in, no cars in. They're taking carcasses out, they can do that, but no cars in. They don't have a license, so no cars in. And we have interdicted a couple of shipments and sent them back. He owns another junkyard somewhere else, and he was transferring the inventory. You can't. You have to have the Class 3 license. So we have stopped that. But they shouldn't be taking
No,
any.
because there are cars there still. I mean, there have been times when the cars have been gone, and then, a couple weeks later, you look, oh, there's a whole fleet of cars there again. So that kind of operation has continued in and around. It's almost like two separate activities, He's doing a bunch of site work, And then there's in the front part, which is really pretty much undisturbed. I mean, didn't have any work done there. You know, they've been having machines, cars primarily, in and out of there on a regular basis. You know, most of the time think they gain access from Hawkins Street, so they come down, you know, that way. And there's plenty of times you see big tractor trailers coming down there with.
Get your camera and videotape it next time.
I guess.
I mean, if they're coming in with tractor trailers full of cars,
Come in with,
I think you need to videotape it.
well, there again, if, you know, sort of making an assumption that the town's aware of this and they're operating under some guidelines that have been established.
Well, I mean, you know, if there's 30 cars there, and you look, and 2 weeks later there's 30 cars there, the question is, are they the same cars, or are they, you know, new cars in and out? When you get the videotape of them coming in with a tractor trailer full of cars, that's pretty good evidence.
Right, so he can shuffle them around and move them around, and he can take them off property,
Right.
but he cannot bring any more.
That would be that ultimately there would be no cars left.
Yes, it should, the number should be going down. Take a look and account of the cars that are there, please, when you're there, carefully.
Oh, I was just gonna, yeah, I had no jurisdiction.
We're just looking for information.
I'm just looking for at the whole site.
Yeah,
So the maximum that I can count from the Google Earth and the program that the assessors have, the maximum I can see in the recorded time we have was 67 cars.
Which was when?
19.
Oh, I can't remember. You have better memory.
Because as far back as the satellite system goes.
So years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, that's legacy. The legacy is the issue. And
For the junk, yeah, for the salvage operation.
So, when the Smiths bought it not that long ago, the Smiths haven't always owned it, right?
Right.
When the Smiths bought it, was there a car limit on their permit?
There was never a permit, there was never a limit on the permit.
Oh, okay.
But there, I mean, there can be, there has never been.
Okay.
That was before the selectmen back then too. I think the only thing that came out of it is the selectmen requested a berm be put along the road to hide it from everyone else. And I think Smith bought it from Freddie Valancourt. I think,
Oh, maybe you could put in a berm.
yeah, I think,
Against Hawkins Street, you know,
Yep.
the house that's across the street, for example.
Can't, you know, there's a berm there with a bunch of pine trees that they planted, so they,
yeah.
yeah, they did.
And before that, it was Bucky Stewart.
There's just so many unanswered questions
right.
and so many gray areas that it's a quagmire. When I think, you know, we've already asked the question to council, what constitutes the legacy rights? We've documented when the permit expired, when the town notified their lawyer, whether the client was notified by their lawyer or not. Representation was told that you sell the property, the license ends. The town bylaws say if you don't renew within a year, you abandon it. The state law says 2 years after the cessation of continuous operation. Define continuous operation. The business has been occupied, they have done business.
Boy, our town council's gonna be busy this month. All right.
Well, the first time I stepped on the property was 1954, so if I can help you.
With some historical knowledge?
Okay, do we have anything further for 41 Hawkins Street? Any other comments, concerns?
No, I guess not. It seems to me it's still an open question about how much longer he's gonna be working there and how late in the evening he can.
I'm hoping I might get some, you know, I mean, he can tell me anything, he can promise me the world.
has, so
If he's-
not upheld.
No. But I mean, at least if I can, if he's operating under a, you know, a cleanup order, which he isn't, if it's like clean, dude, you're clean. There's nothing more for you to be doing up here. I mean, I can at least report that.
What time do you tell him to shut down?
I actually didn't tell him. He offered 9 to 4.
Yeah, he hasn't been,
I didn't even give him those hours. He's the one that said 9 to 4. I'll do it 9 to 4. No weekends, 9 to 4.
No weekends, 9 to 4 is what he offered. And what Brian's telling me is he can run till 11 o'clock, the way it
well,
currently
what I'm
stands.
telling you is he is not stopping at 4 o'clock.
He wasn't ordered to.
Yeah.
He was.
Well, no, I know, but he said he was going to.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, people tell you.
They probably stopped around 5. It's better. Give you that. I mean, it's not.
Do you think 5's reasonable?
He's not, well, I mean, he's not operating, no, I would have thought the 7 to 3:30 thing would be about appropriate, right? That's him. No, I mean, it's a full day's work. 7 to 3:30
That is, that's 8
or
hours,
8 to
yeah.
4 or whatever. 9 to 4 sounds short, you know, you could start earlier than 9 o'clock in the morning.
But once again, every week that he doesn't run over, that adds another day. It's another day. So, I mean,
Well, I mean,
Theoretically.
he may just be pushing dirt from one side to the other side to say that he's actively using the property. But I think now that, listen,
You've seen it all.
see what happens tomorrow.
yeah, I'll
Yeah, so I'm
find,
planning on doing the walkthrough tomorrow with, we can join them. Could I join you at that meeting? Actually, I can't anyways.
I actually told him it was gonna be Camille and myself.
Oh, okay.
So I don't wanna then invite half the town to come if I'm trying to, I mean, I could always call and ask, but I'm pretty sure if I did that, he'd be busy then, and we would reschedule. I have a feeling. I just really wanna go there, look at the tires, see what his plan is, and at least report back.
And my concerns are, okay, so that's sort of past history, he's done all that stuff, but what's kind of the, what are the next?
I mean, actually, when I'm there, I can actually say, hey, Conservation's planning on doing a walk. You mind if they pull up into your driveway and you lead them around? You might say, sure, tell them.
Because they were thinking they can't step on the property, so they're gonna come at it by looking from the
Yeah.
Benson property.
We're gonna park it,
Street.
park on the
And
street.
if they feel like walking through this, I don't even know if it's passable to come,
It's tough. You can get through, but it's tough.
I mean, I think my go-to would have been, I'm gonna call him and ask if we can do it, and then if he says no, then we'll trek through the woods.
Sense to me.
I mean, he's got plenty of parking.
So what time is this? You're gonna do that?
Well, I'm going at 10.
Okay, and if he says that we can go on the property as a conservation,
I mean, it wouldn't, I would have somebody call him directly and confirm that's not the Board of Health.
you'll tell Kevin,
Or Kevin or someone to, here's his number, call him. He seemed like it would, just feel him out. You know what I mean?
the gate's always closed, isn't it?
No, if they were working in there, the gate's open.
Okay, we good with 41 Hawkins Street?
I have nothing else to add. I'll keep you updated after I see what's going on.
Thanks for coming, Tom. Moving forward, we have the annual Board of Health notice from DEP regarding information of interest, reminders, and important updates.
There's really no discussion on it. I just gave it to you to, thought maybe you were bored and wanted to read up on some of the stuff that we do.
It's very lengthy, defends it against the risk of being read. That's Churchill.
It's painful. It's painful to read.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
I just,
It's a little light reading.
Yeah, no, that's
You can
informative.
keep it near the bathroom.
What else do we have? We have the Health Director and Agent reports.
Camille's been keeping up with that and doing an excellent job, or else you just say Deb's busy all day. She's been fairly detailed in it. Did you see the agent report?
I did. There was quite a bit there.
Yes, we're very busy.
I don't doubt that. Excellent job.
Well, some of the stuff other than septic systems and housing there's 5 pools, 6 pools.
5.
She's done all the pools, the permitting and inspections of all the pools that all wanted to get done by May 31st. We have an awful lot of temporary permits for everyone's having circuses and carnivals and road races and summer concert series and running around with all kinds of permits for temporary food permits and stuff like that, which is extremely time consuming. Just typical stuff. And then, of course, trash bills went out and they're due next Thursday. So we've been busy with that.
Very good. And how are we doing with participation?
Well, other than the one customer we just fired, we are holding our numbers consistent with what we had last year. So we're not behind, we're not, we're actually a little bit ahead, I believe. We've picked up 5 new customers. We've picked up 5 or 6 new customers that have never been on the trash program before. And then obviously, we don't know if we've lost any, until the middle of July when we know we've lost them.
We must be ahead financially, though, because of the big increase.
We must be ahead financially?
Yeah,
No, we're not.
we're not, because we're charging so much more, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, but the bill went up so much more. It's not like we had old prices and doubled them. It's,
What are you saying? It's even?
so we actually, I believe it was $60,000 to do the budget going forward for FY, starting July 1st. Out of user fees and whatnot, I think it was $60,000 from retained earnings to balance the budget.
In the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But on the ground, how are we doing?
we're holding our own. We're not losing.
Okay.
We're not underwater. We're not making millions. So again, I used $60,000 from retained earnings to balance the budget. I'm very frugal. I'm
Very what?
frugal. You know what I mean? I think I'm going to start to need to make some expenses, just to,
I guess what I'm asking is, are we looking at a rate increase the next time?
it's too soon to tell. So if I don't spend that $60,000, if I, am frugal and don't know.
You've answered my question.
Don't fix the roof on the shed that's down there that's leaking. We have a mercury shed where we keep mercury and fluorescent bulbs, well, the roof is leaking. That needs to be fixed. I can go another year without fixing it.
All that mercury will leach into the ground. So
No, I got it in plastic bags and I don't have it under the leak.
What is it, Brian?
It's a tool shed.
It's a little one.
We have some leftover shingles from the pool house.
I just haven't asked Jim yet. Yeah, I just haven't asked Jim yet. That would be perfect for. But we're holding our own. So I don't know that yet
okay,
because come July 1st or the middle of July, I have a target number of 1,850.
1,900 this year, we upped it.
So 1,900 participants to break even, to hold our own. So our budget was based on 1,900 households participating. Wrong one. If only 1,800 households participate, well, then we have a problem. So we're holding our own, and I don't know.
Cross that bridge when we get there.
If there is an increase, I don't think it would definitely won't be a large one like before. It would be a very small one, so. My goal is to not, but, you know, there's two theories to price increases, is if you don't raise prices and then you do a big, huge jump, everyone's mad at you. Or if you raise prices a little every year, then the jump's it's not that painful.
We're still mad at it.
And they're still mad at you.
Okay, very good. Moving forward, we have the minutes from April 18th, 2024. Gentlemen, do we have any deletions, additions, corrections? None? Seeing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for April 18th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Bob made the motion. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, it's minutes. Do we have bills and warrants prepared?
No, there was none that you needed to sign.
Fantastic. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Ashen, Mr. Davis, all in favor? Aye. Adjourned at
8:15.